Welcome to Trashmagination, a podcast about reimagining trash. I'm Carla Brown. This week's episode is about playgrounds made from recycled materials. Even if you don't have kids, playgrounds can be a great case study in creative reuse. Playgrounds are something everyone understands. I teach innovation methods, and one of the first exercises in my class involves designing a playground that has not ever been built in the world. People see how they can design a completely new playground, and then they can apply those same methods to their own products and services. So it's a great example to get people thinking creatively. I also think everyone should care about playgrounds because they are a great indicator of a community's health. When a playground is unusual, it's a sign that somebody wanted that community to be special. If playgrounds are busy, it means people feel safe going there. So playgrounds are interesting to anyone who wants to live in a vital community. About 10 years ago, my family set a goal of visiting lots of playgrounds. The organization Kaboom was making a website called The Map of Play. They asked people to photograph and rate playgrounds. We visited about 150 playgrounds that year. My kids were about 3 and 5 years old. When we went to Scotland for my brother's wedding, we also visited playgrounds, and to prepare for that trip, we used Google Earth to virtually walk along the streets nearby where we were going to be staying in order to find playgrounds. Throughout the year, we would drive from one playground to another and stay as long as the kids wanted to stay. We would pack picnics, and most of those playgrounds looked about the same, with big, chunky plastic and metal designs. We became playground experts, and when we encountered an unusual playground, it was a big deal. So let's get started talking about playgrounds from recycled materials. If you search for the term recycled playgrounds, you will find that tires are the most popular material in the results. There was a trend of cutting up old tires into tire crumbs and using them as mulch, but people raised concerns that these tire crumbs might be releasing carcinogenic chemicals, especially when the playgrounds got very hot. I remember one time my family was playing at a playground with those tire crumb mulch, and the smell was so strong that we had to leave. In February 2016, the United States government announced a research plan to study tire crumbs. The study said that more study is needed, unfortunately, but that the initial findings raised significant concerns. So for now, even though the idea of recycling tires into playgrounds sounds really great, I probably wouldn't use those tire crumbs in my own playgrounds. Now, tires are used to build many playground structures, like swings, climbing hills, and rocking horses. But that study on tires makes me wonder if they really should be used in playgrounds at all. I hope there will be more study on this topic. The next material used in creative reuse playgrounds is waste wood, such as wood from pallets or giant wooden spools. Assuming that the wood was not treated with chemicals, this makes a great playground. I mentioned the creative reuse artist Thomas Dambo in many previous episodes. He builds wonderful play structures from wood pallets. Another designer from Denmark, the company Monstrum, designs playgrounds. Now, they use sustainable timber, not waste wood, but their designs are really inspiring if you wanted to build one from waste wood. Both Thomas and Monstrum build huge animals. They also make trees, trolls, and magical worlds. Another playground idea made from recycled wood is a swing made from a recycled skateboard. Often the skateboard is low to the ground, and the expectation is that the child would stand on the board, holding onto the ropes rather than sitting on it. Now let's talk about playgrounds from plastic bottles. Ruganzu Bruno makes playgrounds from plastic bottles and other trash. He started a group called Eco Art Uganda, which connected creative reuse artists from across Uganda. Bruno was orphaned at a young age, and his playgrounds are huge community building projects. They are really cool. For example, a group built a helicopter on wheels, where the kids would climb up into the helicopter and then get pushed around for a ride. The outside of the helicopter was covered with colorful plastic caps. Ruganzu noted that in Kampala, which is a slum, there is not usually a permanent place for a playground. So that's why they made this design of the helicopter, because it could move from place to place as space was available. Here's a fun idea to creatively reuse plastic bottles at a playground. In Crete, an architecture firm called Collective Mind decided that they would creatively reuse a chain link fence. They took a bunch of plastic bottles and painted them different colors, and then they embedded them in the fence almost like a giant game of Light Bright. Now, some folks might not be familiar with Light Bright, but it was a toy popular when I was a kid that involved pushing clear plastic pegs into a light-up board. Well, you got the same effect with these plastic bottles and the chain link fence. Another fun play toy at playgrounds made from plastic bottles is when kids can build a marble run from plastic bottles and funnels. The kids line up the plastic items and then they drop a marble at the top and it goes down, kerplunk, kerplunk, kerplunk. They learn a lot about physics from this activity. If you search for cardboard playground, the most common results involve small slides or playhouses for toddlers. In the show notes, I'll share a video showing how to make a slide from cardboard. Now, sometimes people make mazes by connecting large boxes. In 2015, the Denver Public Library built a maze from cardboard boxes, which they called the Harry Potter Tri-Wizard Tournament Maze. It was 75 feet long, 25 feet wide, and 6 feet tall, so even adults could participate. The crests for the 4 Hogwarts houses were hidden in the maze. Now, there is a movement called Box Wars, which started in Australia. This event is actually only for adults. But then who said playgrounds can't be for adults? So what happens with Box Wars is that people build complex structures from cardboard that they can wear or push, and then they attack each other and destroy everything. Now, it's not clear how much of the cardboard is recycled, but hopefully some. Now, the people will build costumes that are really complicated. Sometimes they look like they are walking jets or they wear medieval armor. They might build structures that look like an aircraft carrier or a tank or a Roman chariot. They really build every kind of vehicle that might be used in battle out of cardboard. Now, there's a design firm from Spain, which I admire. It's called Basurama, which is a play on words for the word basura, which means trash, and Basurama, which means trash love. They do a lot of incredible creative reuse projects, and I really recommend you go to their website to see all of the projects that they do. But they did one related to playgrounds in Taiwan. They had a huge amount of water tanks. I guess the water tanks at some point need to be recycled. So they made a short-term 2-month project, and they cut the tanks in half and arranged them in a labyrinth. And then inside each tank, they put items to climb, and they also put textures that the kids could discover, like pink pom-poms or bubble wrap or textured foam and things like that. Now, I want to talk about playgrounds made from fiber. I'm a fiber artist first and foremost, and my favorite fiber-based playground, they are made by an artist from my home province of Nova Scotia. Her name is Toshiko Horiuchi MacAdam, and she crochets playgrounds. These playgrounds are not made from recycled fibers. She's using new nylon cord and really intense metal armature to hang these playgrounds in public spaces. But it inspires me to imagine a playground that maybe I could make from recycled fibers. I really encourage you to check out some videos of her playgrounds in the show notes. Here is another fiber-based play idea. So I just learned about this concept. It's called knitted or crocheted water balloons. Now, regular water balloons are made from plastic or rubber balloons, and we know they, unfortunately, look like jellyfish. So sea turtles will eat balloons. So we know we want to avoid balloons in general. However, water balloon fights are really fun. So here's a a great solution. These knitted or crocheted water balloons, they look like just little knitted bags. You soak them in water and then you just throw them at each other like you would with a water balloon fight. And then when the game is over, you just dry them and you're all set. And you don't have to search through the grass for like hundreds of pieces of tiny broken balloons and risk having wildlife or small children choking on them. And if you don't knit or crochet, I see that many artists are now selling them on Etsy. So next, I want to talk about playgrounds where the whole purpose of the playground is to encourage creative reuse. Now, there is a theory, and it's often cited in early childhood education. It's called the theory of loose parts, and it says that kids like to gather objects and manipulate them. So what if kids could build their own playgrounds from recycled materials? Well, that's actually been happening for a really long time in some amazing playgrounds around the world. So one of these is called the Adventure Playground. It's located at the Berkeley Marina, and it's been around since 1979. At this playground and at other similar adventure playgrounds, the kids will build forts, boats, and towers, and they leave them there. And then other kids build onto them and expand on them, maybe tear parts of them down and redo them. They are given tools and they can hammer, they can saw, they can paint, they can use hoses to make mud. There's an adventure playground in New York City on Governor's Island, and there are adventure playgrounds in the United Kingdom. There's one in London that's been around for a really long time called the Glamis Adventure Playground, and one in Wales called The Land, which is featured in a movie called Play Free. So these adventure playgrounds, if you look for that term, that's what's happening in many cases, is it's a place where kids can freely build and destroy and reuse materials to make the playground themselves. Now, there's a playground in Denver, Colorado called the Free Range Playground, and it's a version of these adventure playgrounds, but it's slightly different because currently, as of this moment, it doesn't have a permanent home. So what's happening is volunteers bring items that you would find in these adventure playgrounds, like cardboard and wood and tires and tools, and they bring them into a big space, and then they put caution tape around the space to keep the parents out, and then the kids go in the middle and they play. And the challenge with these play spaces is that from the outside, they can look messy and maybe even they might look dangerous in some people's opinions. Now, they are usually supervised, but there's not a lot of rules and they're not going to be told how to use the materials. They're just taught to use the tools safely. Generally, kids are expected to just explore and take risks and design. I think they sound really fantastic, and I wish we had encountered one of these when my kids were small. And I especially love how the kids just keep building on the previous kids' work in the adventure playgrounds that have a permanent location. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you got some fun ideas for your own backyard playground or for a project in your community. You might have noticed that some of the innovative programs I mentioned were really short-term playgrounds. They were only available for a few months. Sometimes they were museum exhibits. The truth is that not all playgrounds need to last for years and years, and that when playgrounds last for a shorter time, it might actually open up more options for creative reuse of more diverse materials. So it might be cool to start thinking about playgrounds as short-term projects rather than these things that have to be super incredibly safe and solid forever and ever. I would love to hear about any playgrounds that incorporate recycled materials that exist in the world where you are. And my email is trashmagination@gmail.com. I have gathered many of these ideas on a Pinterest board about playgrounds for you. Hopefully will be a good resource. So until next time, may you see playgrounds as a great place to creatively reuse materials.